Okay, another morning lesson. Welcome to everyone that's going to tune in today, whether you're watching it live or you're going to watch it on a replay. So this week we've been, or we haven't really done lots yet, but my focus for this week is on the ribs and the chest. Yesterday's lesson, we looked at how through moving the shoulders, we can begin to kind of make a pathway into relaxing the upper rib, or identifying the upper rib. Morning, TC. I don't know if it's morning for you. Don't know where you're based. So today's lesson is going to be kind of further on in that that pathway, and I have titled this lesson "Unlocking the Chest," because when I was kind of thinking about it and exploring it myself, it felt very much like it providing small keys, opening the kind of wider movement of the chest. I'll say nice. And that might be Ali. I can't see when I'm using StreamYard. I can't see exactly some people if they haven't given permission to StreamYard. Yeah, I don't know. Morning, Louise. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Yeah, so as I was saying, this lesson I've called Unlocking the Chest, and because in my mind when I was doing it, it felt very much like I was like giving little keys to myself, and those keys were providing some facility to unlock. Again, I don't know, like I seem to be on a bit of a track doing subtle lessons. So this is another subtle lesson, but tomorrow's is going to be a bit more dynamic. So tune in tomorrow if you want something a little bit more kind of involved. But today's lesson is going to be a little bit meditative, a little bit using awareness, breathing, movement, just to explore a specific part of our chest. So when you're ready, I'd like you to find a comfortable position to sit in, and you probably are already doing that. So take a moment just to let yourself kind of settle into your position, settle into the exercise or to the lesson. And just initially notice your breathing. If you want, you can close your eyes. And just notice how your breathing is today. How much space do you feel in your chest? Does your chest feel tight? Does your chest feel open? I was giving a talk recently, and one of the things that I was kind of talking about is that this part of us, the chest, is often a really an area we kind of close very quickly as a defensive strategy. You know, so tightening the chest could be a very useful defensive strategy. However, we also need the ability to let go of this area. So hopefully this lesson will kind of move us in that direction. So yesterday's lesson, we approached the chest, the ribs, by looking at the movement of the first rib, or just sensing into the first rib. So see this morning, if you can just feel how your shoulders are resting on your chest, and whether there's still some sense of the breathing movement or the mobility of the upper rib as you breathe in and breathe out. Is there some kind of spillover from yesterday's lesson? If you haven't done it, don't worry. But just kind of feel into that part of you, the upper ribs. And see, as you breathe, can you feel some gentle expansion and contraction in the upper chest? Good. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and just bring your attention to the back of your body and the points between the where the ribs of the upper, I'm going to say this correctly, where the joining point of the upper rib at the back of the body is. So this is the T1 juncture, the C7 T1 juncture, and in fact, is it? Yeah. So as you bring your attention to that area, kind of focusing more towards the spinal part of the breathing movement, and just feel for yourself as you continue to breathe in and breathe out, focusing a little bit on the movement of the upper rib. Can you sense the kind of the influence back onto this T1? I'm going to double check that actually. C7, T1. You know, maybe the first rib, I can't see on this skeleton. I think it does. It could be T1, T2, but it's not really too important. If you want, you can just feel for yourself. Can you feel where the first vertebra joins in with the spine? Palpation or kind of touching the part is sometimes really useful. I will have to check that though. But just pay attention. Basically, what I'm looking for, what I'm interested in, is this part where the rib joins in with the vertebra. And the vertebra, there's a top vertebra and there's a bottom vertebra, and the rib kind of joins into the middle between the two. So feel, if you trace back the upper rib into this sort of the first point of contact with the spine, can you feel that in this particular part of the body, there's a movement as you breathe in and breathe out? And what I'd like you to do is just keep your attention on that part of you, and very gently just begin to move that part of you slightly as you breathe in and slightly backwards as you breathe out. So this is, again, this juncture between these two vertebrae where the first rib comes in. If none of this is clear, please let me know. I'm just going to double check online. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of, as you continue to focus on that, so you've got your awareness and you're using your awareness to pay attention to the spine, that part of you at the back of the body, and then you're feeling the movement of breath at the same time. And then you're just introducing a tiny bit of movement to the spine itself, to the vertebrae themselves. You're giving them a bit of direction so that you're moving them slightly forwards as you breathe in and slightly backwards as you breathe out. Again, if none of this is clear, please do type. I hope it is. One of the functions of this is that you've kind of got this kind of cartilaginous disc in between your two vertebrae. And as you're moving the spine forward, it's like you're in some way, like, you know, like mobilizing this disc. You know, it's like the force of the top vertebra and the force of the one beneath it are changing their position slightly. And in some way, this is like mobilizing the disc. I'm not finding a good anatomy description. So let's just move on. Then what I'd like you to do is move your attention down to the next point that you can feel. So if you imagine it's the second rib. The second rib, as it comes around the body, the second rib as it joins in with the spine. And here it's kind of got it connected with T2. But I don't think that that's quite right. I think that the vertebra join in between the two, the ribs join in between the two vertebrae. Should have done my research better. So as you feel that the next lower down, so let's call it T1. So between T1 and T2, and then just begin to, as we've done already, just breathe in, very gently move that part of you forwards. As you breathe in, move it backwards, very gently as you breathe out. See now as you're doing this, if you can begin to slow your breathing down. So the breathing can kind of have this really beautiful rate where it's just like slow and slow. And you're just kind of feeling the movement between the two vertebrae. So if you imagine where we were moving earlier was T1 and T2. And then if we move on and we do between T2 and T3, these are terms for the vertebra. The thoracic spine, T1 to T12. But if all of that doesn't make any sense to you, just imagine the spine at the back of you and moving down the sequential parts. And as you move down, it's like the movement, you're picking one vertebra, you're keeping your attention, your awareness resting on that area. You're breathing in, allowing the movement of breath, and gently making a forwards movement as you breathe in, gently making a backwards movement as you breathe out. And stay on that vertebra, stay on that relationship between between T2 and T3. Stay on that relationship for a few in-breaths and out-breaths. When I was doing it earlier, I think I was doing around 10 for each layer. And hopefully what you feel is that as you continue to do it, you feel a developing mobility. So that as you breathe and you move and you pay attention, the muscles around the spine soften, the muscles around the ribs soften, and it's just like the whole process is becoming a little bit more fluid, a little bit less solid and a bit more fluid. Good. And take a little rest. It's good to have a rest. I hope that this is clear. I'd love some feedback to let me know that you guys are all listening and finding this interesting. And hopefully you notice kind of the effect of it is that as you continue to do this, in some way, it's like the breathing starts to relax. And as the muscles around the breathing process kind of loosen, soften, the breathing itself can become much more comfortable. Good. So then bring your attention back to your spine. Coming now to the area of T2 and T3, which is the second vertebra down and the third vertebra down. Again, if this is just a general sense of awareness of that part of your spine, don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. So the thoracic spine, again, from the neck area down to where the ribs stop at the bottom, where it joins in with the lumbar spine, essentially. And then very slowly begin to make this breathing movement again. So T2 and T3, and you're thinking about the way that as you move forwards, the vertebrae are changing shape between the two vertebrae, and in some way that's having an effect on the disc that's between them. And it's a very simple movement. This is just kind of a forwards and backwards movement. And you're just allowing your breathing to slow down, to become very natural. And your awareness kind of holding these 2 points, so that the vertebra at the top and the vertebra underneath, and that as you move, that they're doing a slightly different thing. They're opening up to the front and then opening up to the back. Breathe in, forwards, breathe out and back. Good, and then move down. And I think I'm probably going at too slow a rate, looking at the time, but we'll just go, we'll keep going. So now move down between the third and the fourth vertebra in the thoracic spine. And again, if this is more of a generalized area for you, that's okay. If your attention can be specific, that's excellent. And again, breathing in slowly. And actually, I don't know if you were before or you were just imagining it, but really see if you can feel a little movement forwards of the spine and a little movement backwards. One of the ways that you can kind of imagine this is if someone kind of have their hands on either side of the spine. So if someone was standing beside you and they had their left hand on the back of the vertebra, the kind of the dorsal, I forget the word for it. It's basically like a fin of the vertebra. It's got like a little bit that sticks out at the back. And they had their right hand inside your body, touching the inside, kind of the frontal part of the vertebra. And just imagine that they're holding their hands there on those two vertebrae. Maybe they got a finger on each. And they're very just gently guiding it forwards and guiding it backwards. Guiding it forwards, guiding it backwards. As you breathe out, they're helping you by guiding those two vertebrae forward slightly, helping you by, as you breathe out, guiding them backwards slightly. So if that's a useful image to you, you can use that as we continue. If you're finding it okay without that image, just carry on as you were. Take your time. It's like allowing your body to kind of like really, I don't know, marinate in this movement. Okay, when you've done that, those two vertebrae, the third and the fourth, and you can move down to the fourth and the fifth. And this is kind of getting towards the area. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is getting towards the area between the shoulder blades, and this can be, an area that people often experience issues. In the kind of Eastern traditions, we would say that this is kind of like the backwards part of the heart center. So it can be an area that can be quite tight for people. So just be gentle with yourself. See if the gentle awareness, gentle attention, the gentle breathing, and the gentle movement can help you kind of identify that part of yourself and soften it. Again, feeling that it's like the two vertebrae kind of acting in unison, moving forward together and then moving backward together. If it's helpful to imagine that someone's standing at your side and has one hand on the back and one hand on the front of the vertebra. So you can really kind of let your attention, let your awareness be drawn into this activity. So sometimes our attention can feel very scattered. It's like as the system feels more comfortable, it's like it's more accessible for the awareness to kind of come in and have finer detail. And maybe you can sense a kind of growing clarity in yourself. Good. When you're ready, you can move down between T5 and T6. It's just kind of getting towards the bottom area of the shoulder blades. And if I'm kind of speeding up in terms of the lesson timing, please don't feel that you need to speed up internally. Actually take your time and really I know the word I want to use is absorb, but it's not quite right. Like absorb the quality, the feeling that you're getting from the spine. Good. And then when you're ready, move down to T7 and T8. Again, moving slightly gently backwards as you breathe out, moving slightly gently forwards as you breathe in, feeling the two vertebrae and how the trajectory of each vertebra is a little different as you breathe out and a little different as you breathe in. It's like they open up in a slightly different way because they're in a different position in the spine. Again, if it's helpful to you to kind of imagine that someone's got their hand on the back of the vertebra in the front, you can do that. Good. And then when you're ready, move down between T8 and T9. And at this point, we've kind of moved past the shoulder blades. And this is getting towards the lower ribs, the area of the lower ribs. Again, moving gently backwards as you breathe out, focusing on the two vertebrae, T8 and T9. And you can feel the space between them again, the disc between them, and how just that gentle movement is in some way kind of mobilizing the disc. Like when you get into the study of anatomy, and I think that they say this about kind of scientists that go into like quantum physics, like when you get into the study of anatomy, you start to kind of really appreciate the beauty, how the body is built. There's some really beautiful or aspects of how the body works. Can you find the beauty in this particular juncture between T8 and T9? Good. And then when you're ready, move down T9 and T10. And this is the kind of getting to the point of the lowest ribs. These lower ribs technically should be the most mobile. the most mobile because they're free. They're not joined in at the front with the sternum. But for some people, it's not an area that they move very much when they breathe. So as you continue now, maybe you can notice the different sense of breathing, or the different sense that breathing adds to this forwards and backwards movement in this area. Does the movement become slightly larger or demonstrable? Again, if it's helpful, you can have one hand or one imaginary hand on the outside point of the spine and one imaginary hand on the inside. So that's like the most backwards part of the vertebra and the most forwards part of the vertebra. And you may start to feel that this influences your breathing through the kind of connections of the diaphragm. You may feel that your breathing relaxes even further as you do this bit. Good, and then move your attention between T10 and T11. Feeling that you move backwards as you breathe out. And you can feel the space between the two vertebrae. You can feel the trajectory of the two vertebrae as they move forwards, as they move backwards. If it's helpful, you can have some imaginary hands touching the two vertebrae, guiding them forwards, guiding them backwards. Good. Take a little rest. I think we're going to go to about 30 minutes for this video. Normally do 25. Take a little rest. Just notice how you're sitting. Notice your relationship with the chair, with the floor. Do you feel kind of more connected to the ground in some way? Good. And then let's do the last one. So T11 and T12. T11 and T12, and this is the lowest part of the thoracic spine. And this is kind of getting into what they would call the small of the lower back. So the spine kind of curves around and then begins to curve inwards in the lower back. And T10, T11, T12, it's like the inwards movement. And take your time. While this is the last vertebra that we're doing, it doesn't matter if we, take a bit of extra time. At this point, it's kind of like a meditation practice. At this point, our awareness may be screaming like, I need to do something else. But just see if you can kind of give another couple of moments to your body. See if this kind of gentle movement, the gentle movement of breath, the gentle resting of your attention, and the gentle movement of the body can help soften that area of the spine, the muscles around the spine that connect in with the ribs. And maybe you can feel a bit more awake to the back of your body and the relationship between your ribs and the spine. Great. Perfect. Okay. So then just bring your attention out of that experience and just rest it on your breathing again. A general kind of overall sense of how you're breathing now. It should be quite different. It should be quite different to how we started the lesson. Okay. So I think that that's a nice place to finish. I'd love to hear your feedback. Some of these subtle lessons are very interesting for certain people and feel completely painful for others. So I'm open to both comments. Inga said that she nearly fell asleep, which I think is a perfect reaction. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching. It's been a little bit of a longer lesson, but I hope it was useful. Again, if you want to watch a replay, you can watch it in my Thoughtful Movements community group. You can watch it on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to make a small donation, the link is also in the description, my PayPal account. Any other announcements? I don't think so. Sank to 64. You're watching your heartbeat. Ah, nice. That's cool. Great. Yeah, this can have a regulatory effect on the whole system, this kind of stuff. Kind of as everything softens, it's like the body kind of comes into a much more natural rhythm with itself. So, great. Thank you all for watching. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's lesson, as I said, will be a little bit more movement focused, but it's going to still be kind of exploring or considering our ribs and how the movement of the ribs is an important part of our overall mobility. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.